In the summer of 1985, the world witnessed an event that seemed unthinkable: the near disappearance of one of the most iconic brands in history. This isn't just a tale of a beverage, it's the gripping story of how Coca-Cola, a symbol of American culture, teetered on the edge of oblivion. Dive into the chaos, the public outcry, and the corporate misstep that almost erased Coca-Cola from our shelves forever. This is the untold saga of how Coca-Cola almost vanished, the 1985 story. In the 1980s, Coca-Cola found itself in a fierce battle for market share with its primary competitor, Pepsi. Pepsi's aggressive marketing campaigns, particularly the Pepsi Challenge blind taste tests, were proving effective. These taste tests consistently showed that consumers preferred Pepsi's sweeter taste to Coca-Cola's classic flavor. Recognizing the threat, Coca-Cola's executives swiftly devised strategies to reclaim their lost market share from the formidable rival. After pitching numerous ideas, the Coca-Cola's management decided to reformulate their flagship product to make it sweeter, more like Pepsi, in an attempt to win back the market share. The decision to change the formula was based on the belief that taste was the primary factor driving consumer preference, and that a sweeter taste would appeal to a wider audience. Coca-Cola executives were confident that the new formula would not only regain lost market share, but also revitalize the brand. This new recipe, known as New Coke, had a sweeter taste due to increased levels of high fructose corn syrup and a slightly different blend of flavorings. Let me tell you something else about the development of this New Coke. It was top secret. This thing was so top secret. It was like finding out who really wrote the anonymous hate note in your high school's group chat. Only a handful of people could possibly know, and they'd never tell. New Coke was shrouded in secrecy, much like the highly guarded recipe of the Krabby Patty. Only a few top executives knew about the change until it was ready for launch. Coca-Cola heavily promoted the sweeter New Coke in the weeks before its April 1985 launch, hoping to outsell Pepsi. There was significant hype and anticipation surrounding the launch, as this marked the first time in the company's history that the core Coca-Cola formula would be changed. April 23, 1985, Coca-Cola announced the new formula, discontinuing the original Coke and replacing it with New Coke. The company believed the new taste would appeal to a broader audience, especially younger consumers. However, the company severely underestimated the emotional attachment consumers had to the original Coca-Cola. The launch, which was accompanied by a massive marketing campaign, was met with an overwhelming negative response from loyal Coca-Cola drinkers who felt betrayed by the change in their beloved beverage. People organized protests, wrote letters to the company, and even held funerals for the original formula. Coca-Cola, a brand that's practically synonymous with joy, refreshment, and the essence of American culture, was facing an enormous backlash. Known affectionately just as Coke, this iconic beverage had been altered, much to the dismay of its loyal consumers, who were heartbroken over the potential disappearance of this American classic. The media picked up on the story, turning it into a national phenomenon. Newspapers, TV shows, and even political figures commented on the change, often humorously. There were petitions, protests, and even a Bring Back the Real Thing campaign. Some consumers hoarded the old formula, and there also was a black market it. The scarcity of the original formula led to a black market where it was sold at inflated prices. It was an unprecedented level of consumer backlash, highlighting the deep emotional connection people had with the classic Coca-Cola. Within weeks of the launch, Coca-Cola executives realized the severity of the mistake. On July 10, 1985, just 79 days after introducing New Coke, the company announced that it would bring back the original formula under the name Coca-Cola Classic. This decision was made after extensive market research and listening to consumer feedback. The New Coke debacle had made a significant impact on Coca-Cola's brand image and sales. The company's reputation suffered due to the perceived arrogance and lack of respect for its loyal customers. All hope was not lost, though. It did take some time, but Coca-Cola Classic quickly regained its market dominance. Interestingly, New Coke continued to be sold for a while, perhaps in a last-ditch effort to salvage something from the situation. However, with the triumphant return of Classic Coke, the appeal of New Coke waned significantly. It eventually faded into obscurity, a stark reminder of a marketing blunder that shook the corporate world. While the original New Coke formula was a significant failure, Coca-Cola did experiment with similar variations over the years. For example, they introduced Coke 2 in the 1990s, which was another attempt at a reformulated Coca-Cola. However, this version also failed to gain traction. Coke 2 was essentially a rebranded version of New Coke introduced in 1990 after the initial disaster. While the formula was slightly tweaked, it still faced the same fundamental issues. One issue was emotional attachment. Consumers had already formed a strong emotional connection to the original Coca-Cola formula, and any deviation from that was met with resistance. Lack of innovation. While Coke 2 aimed to be a sweeter alternative, it didn't offer any significant innovation or unique selling point to differentiate it from the original or other competitors. They also released a limited edition run of New Coke in 2019 as a nostalgic tie-in with the popular Netflix series Stranger Things. This was more of a marketing stunt and not a permanent return of the product. The New Coke fiasco is often cited as one of the biggest marketing blunders in history. It highlighted the importance of understanding the emotional connection consumers have with brands. Not only was a lesson learned by the company, but a lesson was learned by the consumer as well, with this fiasco. The failure of New Coke emphasized the need for better market research and understanding consumer behavior beyond taste tests. Consumers realized the power of their voice and the impact they can have on corporate decisions. It was a wake-up call for consumers to become more discerning and vocal about their preferences. The New Coke debacle was a monumental marketing lesson in corporate history, illustrating the complexities of consumer behavior, brand identity, and the risks of major product changes in established markets. Despite being a significant blunder, Coca-Cola managed to turn the situation around, arguably strengthening its brand in the process. And with that, we wrap up our discussion on Coca-Cola's darkest day, the untold 1985 blunder. Please hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed it, and if you want to see more content like this, be sure to let us know in the comments section below. Keep on snacking, friends. Until next time.